Hello and welcome to my 10th video on this channel. Grab something to drink and let's get started. Here I am with 3 videos in 2 weeks. That is a first for me. Although this one is a bit shorter, I will try to cover as much as possible and keep you up to date with what I did in the past week. First of all, this video will have way less progress than I usually upload because simply I didn't have enough time to focus on the game itself. I decided to spend more time on learning more coding tricks because I found that better and cleaner code would help me more in the long run. Therefore, I focused on a lot of tutorials to improve the code quality and especially the modularity of my code. This was mainly due to something that I've noticed while implementing the new feature of my game, which is, as the title also suggests, the looting system. So let's first see how I progressed with that, and afterwards I will let you know what my plans are for the next week. Last week I showed you the new feature I implemented with the mine and how I generated different mine layouts every time we ran the game. And I also implemented a pathfinding system where your character went to a node, mined it, and then it could move through it and mine other nodes that were inaccessible before. For the continuation of that feature, I decided to also implement a drop system that would occur when you finished mining a node. Basically, whenever a node disappeared, or rocks in my case, loot would appear in place of it, and after a short while the loot would start moving towards the player, and when it reached him it would enter in its inventory and be shown there. But of course, because the first drops that I implemented were resources, these didn't appear in my inventory before, and that is why currently I couldn't add them to it. But this is exactly the thing I was talking about in the beginning, and this is the thing I will be fixing in the future. Currently, whenever you picked up resources, I implemented the top resource bar that I had in my shop, and that will display the resources for now. First, after spawning the loot, I made them choose a random direction and used vector trees to move the object from one place to another before moving them towards the player. On the other hand, I didn't really like the implementation, and therefore I decided to go with the physics of Unity and using rigid bodies. The only issue was that my first implementation looked something like this. But slightly tweaking the drag of the object fixed my issue, and it turned out really nicely. Considering that the only thing that currently dropped from the mine were resources, I really needed a way to send data from one scene to the other. That is when I finally needed to implement the save system that I was postponing for so long. Firstly, it was because I didn't want to use the built-in functionality of Unity with the player prefs, because I really wanted to save my data in files. This will allow me in the future to have multiple saves of my game and therefore a better experience overall. But for that, I needed to learn how to serialize files in Unity and afterwards write them into a file. To my surprise, it actually went really easy, and I had a save system up in no time. The only thing I had to do now is to actually transfer the data from one scene to the other using the same save system. With all that being done, I finally had my two separate scenes connected for the first time. This was an amazing achievement and I'm really proud of it. The next thing I wanted to do was to link the two scenes through game so that you don't have to stop the game and then change the scene to load the other one. For that, I added an additional implementation to my endgame screen, where after you finish a day in the shop, your next day would start in the mine, and I also wanted to add an end of day screen to the mine as well, so you could go back into the shop the third day. There's still a lot of loose ends to be linked with the connection of these two scenes. For example, the quests aren't handled correctly yet, and your items that you create in your shop are getting lost in the mine, but I'm on the right track and this is looking really nicely already. And with this, I have pretty much summed up all my progress I did in the past week. I know it's a little bit less than I usually progress, but here comes the thing I mentioned in the beginning. When I implemented the inventory system in the shop, I actually didn't pay attention to how modular it is, and because of that I cannot use the same inventory code in my mine. I think this is wrong because the whole system should be on the same basis and it should work in the same way as in the shop, and therefore I really want to rewrite this part. And when I will be done with that, I will probably have multiple types of inventory introduced into the game. For example, an inventory for your shop, an inventory for your character, and a separate inventory when you are in the mine and you gather resources. There's a lot to improve on my code and make it more modular, and I will definitely want to do that, but I also want to focus my attention on making progress and implementing new features because that is the most important thing for now. I noticed that currently the plan I have with the mine is getting really boring and there are little things to do and little variety in it. So my main plan for the next week is to figure out a way of implementing the mine so that it would feel a completely different game and it would have bigger variety, some kind of change that would make it way more interactive. I also want to expand on the save system and integrate everything that needs to be saved in it so that nothing gets lost when I change from one scene to the other. And that's it for this week's video. Thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like and please comment about what you think of my progress. Don't forget to check out my Instagram where I post updates more often, and stay safe until next time. Bye bye.